probably good. I think it's really been a while since we last convened, so I think it would be a good idea probably to do at least a quick round of introductions for the project team, if not also maybe a really quick round for folks in the TAC, just really quick again so we can get to the meat of the meeting here. But yeah, I think we do have a few new members actually, so I just wanted to point that out. So it would be definitely good to introduce them. But I will at least get going there for folks. Again, we haven't met in a little while here. Um, so I think it'd be good just to remind you all that my name is Eric Olson. I'm the project manager for the city on our work to update the Foothills District plan. Um, and yeah, I'm joined by our consultant team, two individuals here in the meeting, Jason and Will. I'll hand it over to them.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Graff, principal at First 40 Feet. Really glad to have you all here today. We've got kind of a specific topic that we'll be covering, but again, it's really glad to have everyone in the room, and this is going to be really set the stage for us on one of the most complicated aspects of this project, which is determining good access, second access, primary access into the district. And I'll hand it off to Will and to introduce himself, and then uh, we'll move along. Thank you. Maybe he's not available at the moment. Will be joining, I think, soon, and I think we have an additional team member from Apex, which is our engineering team, should be in on this call too, and maybe they're on their way. So if there's some new members we want to introduce, Eric, we could always do that. That'd be a good way to continue moving forward.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to note that we finally have somebody here at the city that's kind of working in an economic development slash redevelopment related position. So we haven't formally been able to appoint her to the TAC, but we've invited her to join us on this meeting, and we'll be doing that shortly at City Council. So just wanted her to kind of sit in on this meeting. It's not going to be too relevant, but yeah, I guess I'll just throw it over to Megan if you want to just go ahead and say something quickly about yourself. I'm sorry if I have already said too much.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm officially a month on the job working for the city of Lake Oswego. I come from the city of Beaverton, 12 years there, actually working with First 40 Feet on other projects for in Beaverton. But I'm very excited for the Foothills project and everything that we'll be doing going forward. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Megan. Really good to have you on board. And yeah, it's really great to know that we have somebody with that mindset on the city's team and on the TAC. So it's really great to have your expertise and to be able to benefit from that. So yeah, I guess if it would be possible, if we could just go really, really quickly through the room and just if you could identify just your name and where you are representing, that would be great. I'll just kind of call on you to make this go really quick, and I'm sorry for the formality here, but why don't you start first, Rich?
Rich Martin, I represent the property at 220 Foothills.
Thanks for being here, Rich. Kira.
Hi, Kira Haggard. I'm with Lake Oswego Parks and Recreation. I'm a project manager here. I'm representing the Parks and Recreation Department.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Nathan. I'm the Executive Director at the Arts Council of Lake Oswego. We are a nonprofit that manages the City of Lake Oswego's public art and Percent for Art program.
Thanks, Nicole. Ken.
Ken Spencer with PGE.
Thanks, Ken. Stefan.
Hi everyone, my name is Stefan. I am the project manager for the wastewater treatment plant project for the city of Lake Oswego.
Great. And just so you know, I'm just kind of going left to right on my screen. There's no real rhyme or reason here. So Paul.
Paul Scarlett with ODOT. I cover projects on OR 43 south of City of Portland.
Thank you. And I suppose you're also a new member of this team. I think you're replacing a former rep from ODOT, so I appreciate you.
I think I'm just guest today. There
Or
might be
you're just the
someone.
guest. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Alex.
Hi there, Alex Page. I'm a long-range planner at Tryon.
Thanks, Alex. Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacey Humphrey. I am here representing Metro in the 2040 grant program that is funding this work. Great to be here.
Great. Thanks, Stacy. Elizabeth.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Marissa O'Hara. I work for Metro, and I am here representing the Willamette Shoreline Consortium that runs the trolley and protects the right-of-way.
Great. Kenny.
Hi there, Kenny Worth, ODOT planner. Yes, I invited Paul. I believe he's will be a very helpful addition to the conversations about Oregon 43. And I believe we had a new rail representative, but I do not see them on this call. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Matt.
Hi, Matt Amos, Fire Marshal with Lake Oswego Fire, here to address fire and life safety concerns and fire department access to Marshplay.
Of course. Thanks for being here, Matt. We've already introduced Megan, Jason, and Will, so I'll go to Alexis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis with Tryon Creek Watershed Council, so the nonprofit that is often mixed up with the Friends of Tryon Creek, but we work on the full watershed and have an ecological angle.
Thanks, Alexis. And yeah, Christina, I don't know if you want to give a quick introduction.
Yeah. Hi there. I'm Christina. I am admin support for
I don't know
the.
why we can't hear you. At least I can't hear you.
Oh, I am admin
There you
support
go.
for the planning department. Good to see you.
Thanks, Christina. She's helping us run the meeting right now. All right, Abby.
Hi, everyone. Abby Thayer-Oli. I'm with City of Lake Oswego Public Works Asset Management.
Thanks, Abby. Johanna.
Hi, Johanna Hasty, current planning manager for the City of Lake Oswego.
Thanks. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Jamuna.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamuna Golden. I am here representing Metro as a regional trail and parks planner.
Great. I think that's it. Let me know if I'm for. Oh, actually, I did forget someone. Syringa.
Hi, Syringa Volk with PGE.
Great. Thanks for being here, Syringa. Yeah, sorry, your things are bumping around here a little bit. So apologies for that. But I think that should be like a good reminder of who all is here in the room. I think just a really quick note that, of course, the topic of today's meeting, really looking at access to the district and different alternatives for access, particularly a new north access point to the district. Obviously that's going to involve certain folks here a little bit more than others. So, I appreciate folks that might not have as direct of a connection to this topic, you being here, and I appreciate your patience, I guess, as we talk through this topic. But I think just wanted to note that some topics will be certainly more relevant than others to your particular area of expertise. So anyway, with that, I guess I'll hand it over to Jason to kind of get things rolling.
Eric, did Matthew Amos introduce?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I got a text from Scott Shoemaker with Apex that he was on as a public guest. So I don't know if you're seeing additional people beyond this, but
yeah, he probably didn't receive a panelist
around.
invite from the outset because he's not on the TAC. So I will, yeah, Christina, if we can send him a panelist invite, that would be great.
Great, and Will's here as well, and we'll so just wave to Will and we'll get started here.
I think that Amy Chomowitz, Eric, is in the webinar, but we can't see her.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thanks for checking on that, Alexis.
So we'll have to send her a
I got
panelist
an email
invite too. Let me get those emails to Christina really quick so we can get them both in here.
I just promoted Amy to panelist.
Oh, we can just promote.
Perfect.
Yeah, she'll be able to accept, and she's in.
Great. All right. Well,
yeah, Amy's a great addition.
Awesome.
I was able to join as well.
Oh, there's Scott. Wonderful.
Yeah. Scott Shoemaker with Apex. Nice. I heard all of you, so you
Patiently
did a
waiting.
great job introing yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for moving quickly, everyone. And yeah, Amy, I guess if you're able to provide a brief introduction, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Chumowitz with the City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services.
Great. Thanks, Amy. I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to be doing part of this work through our concept board, which will link us to some images that I think will help us as we're navigating here. So just give me a moment. It's always a little tricky getting this to do the right thing. And let me know if you are seeing an agenda.
Yes.
Perfect. Meeting purpose here. I'll reference a map here in a second, but really the goal of the conversation is to get informed some sort of three primary groups regarding a primary access point into the district from the north end. And we're exploring a couple of locations, and there's a number of issues that are potentially related with each alternative. And this is an opportunity to get a little more clarity on some of the issues that need to be addressed from a planning perspective. But also this meeting is partially looking at how we can start to build a coalition and series of partnerships around a couple of different projects that are within the geography or the area of Terwilliger Boulevard and Tryon Creek and Highway 43. And I think partnerships are going to be a big part of advancing this planning effort. And so today, this is really helping to build some of those partners and also sort of establish some new direction that the city of Lake Oswego might need to take moving forward. And so the three groups that we're intensely engaged with today is one, ODOT transportation, because we're asking to look at connecting into Highway 43. So that impacts the transportation facility. Because of the rail connection just south of State Street, again, new connections would be potentially impacting rail movement. And so having ODOT rail here allows us to understand the challenges associated with that. The third element is Tryon Creek and the Highway 43 Fish Culvert Project, which is in proximity to Terwilliger Boulevard and planned to go underneath Highway 43 and allow for that fish passage between Tryon Creek to the north down to the North Cove and connecting with the Willamette River, and having additional information about that project and its progression and what the role City of Lake Oswego may take on as a more active role in that project is part of what we're leaning into today. So I think we're going to start with we were going to start with the rail crossing, but I think first we want to engage ODOT transportation, and so I'm going to sort of start the conversation off around these access points, and there's two alternatives that we're exploring on the north end, and I'll jump to a map here in a moment. Let's see if I can get us to that. There's two alternatives. One is a crossing that's an existing at-grade crossing at Highway 43, and the second then would be a new crossing of the rail line to Highway 43 at Terwilliger Boulevard. And just to give you a map indicator here of sort of what we're talking about, our project area is generally within these sort of colored bubbles here. The north axis is where we're focused. Highway 43 traverses this line right here. So that's the highway coming in. And of course, we have the rail line adjacent to that as we move along. Terwilliger Boulevard is is this connection, and that's a primary part of the primary transportation network. But there's also an additional rail crossing where you see this black arrow to the public storage yard. And a couple of things we wanted to clarify. This location, and we'll call it location B. We'll call this location A. Location B was referenced in the 2012 plan for Foothills District, and that was identified as the primary north portal access into the district, and it would traverse across the existing rail crossing at grade and move through the storage facility and then into the district to create a complete street network for redevelopment, which is generally in this sort of yellow redevelopment core area. That alignment used to traverse a line much like I'm showing you here, which was hugging generally the rail right of way. But as a result of the wastewater treatment plant, which is in the asterisk here, this connection has then been eliminated. But the crossing itself still provides an opportunity because it's existing at grade. And so we're exploring a crossing using that same rail crossing today, but extending further into the district more toward this black line here so that we move away from the future wastewater treatment plant and try to weave sort of that space between the existing one and a future one. And we're looking at a couple of alternatives there. But I did want to clarify, and this is in particular for ODOT folks, is that the 2012 plan assumed that there be a right in and right out with a new road connection at this area B that I'm showing you. And I wanted to just sort of update our thinking and our transportation folks at Apex who are exploring this connection similar to 2012, but not as a right in and right out, knowing that that really doesn't meet standards for ODOT and Highway 43. And so a future recommendation as a potential alignment here would be for a signalized intersection, allowing access then both in and out of the district from the north and the south. So that would take a signal associated with an intersection between Avenue D and E, which are on the north side of the street. And so there would be some changes, for instance, to Avenue E where there would be a right in, right out. These are preliminary concepts that we're looking at. And we may want to look at restricting some other turns within the Lake Oswego street network on basically the west side of Highway 43. But this gives you a sense of what we were thinking from that perspective. And then the other idea for access is to align with the intersection at Terwilliger Boulevard. I apologize, this is not a great image here. And maybe Will, if you have a moment, you could set up a street view of that intersection. It'd be helpful if we could navigate there. So while as I'm talking, maybe Will can help us get some better images for us to reference. The goal of considering an intersection at this area A is that it provides the opportunity for a normalized four-way intersection that links up with an existing street network on Terwilliger Boulevard. So from a Highway 43 perspective, we see a stronger benefit to option A versus option B, where we have option B is a signal in close proximity to an existing signal at Terwilliger. This would more normalize with A, creating sort of better circulation through Highway 43 and connecting well with the existing street network at Terwilliger, and using that extension from Terwilliger as a four-way intersection, four-legged intersection instead of three, and extend that into the district at that location. Some of the issues that obviously we have to address is the fact that there's a rail line here, that rail line is not level with Highway 43. It's a few feet above. And so in terms of design considerations, thinking about creating a level crossing there would be a part of the design effort. The other challenges obviously are traversing Tryon Creek into the district. And again, these represent both environmental and cost considerations. But we're really interested in this connection, partially because it's probably better for the circulation network. It does create a better front door to the district. So it's obviously a location we would like to explore. One idea is that potentially with a connection that's now creating a new crossing of the rail line, that if the public storage could access that new roadway, that we could consider maybe closing the crossing at the public storage yard. And so the goal would be not to add an additional crossing of the rail line, but maybe open one and close another. And so the third piece is with the Highway 43 Fish Culvert project, that's also occurring in the proximity of this intersection. And so Alexis and Amy can give us a little bit of background on that work, which has been navigated by the Watershed Council, Tryon Creek Watershed Council, and Portland's BES in coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers. And that project has identified a culvert as a solution for creating a fish-friendly passage along Tryon Creek. And the cost associated with that is pretty high, partially due to the fact that there is a wooden trestle that supports the primary rail line, and it's a bit of a threading of the needle to make that type of design consideration work. The Corps of Engineers don't typically do bridge or span projects, which is why the design solution was in the culvert realm. Some of the discussions we've had with Amy and Alexis is that if the culvert project were converted, it was more in ODOT's purview because it's part of an intersection project, that maybe how the roadway is engineered and how fish passage might work at the intersection could have a different potentially designed scenario with the bridge span. And it would also create a different federal partner with the FHWA. So I'm just throwing some things out here for context. I'll pause for a moment to, I think, have Paul weigh in on just what we need to expect in terms of trying to navigate a connection in this area A at Terwilliger Boulevard in particular, and then certainly Paul and Kenny, if there's any additional thoughts about how we might envision alternative B as not a right in, right out, but signalized intersection. I'd love for you all to ask us some questions and we could have some conversation about that. So let me pause for a moment. And this is really a question about access to Highway 43 and a new road connection, either at Terwilliger or at the public storage yard.
Okay. Jason, appreciate the overview. Some good information. Love the vicinity map, if you will, that gives a visual. So with all that, I actually am not a traffic engineer and don't believe one is here. So I do know in order to make a recommendation or determination, we certainly would need some data and some analysis. And so what I can commit to you, and I think Kenny as well, we can share this information and get either someone to follow up with you or provide the necessary responses, if you will. I hate to even guess and commit to something that I'm not an expert in, if you will.
Sure.
Kenny, do you have anything to add?
Is Apex looking to do any kind of because I spoke with a few folks and we were discussing intersection control evaluation. I don't know if that's part of the scope of this project or not.
Oh, Jeff Whitman raised his hand. Go ahead. Does Jeff have access? Oh, great. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. Sorry, I showed up a little late, and so I'm Jeff Whitman with Apex. I'm focusing on the traffic and transportation part of the project, and I think with these concepts of developing some access on the north side of the district, I think we're just trying to identify what the most likely preferred scenario is. There's going to be a lot of additional study that's needed, and like we don't have an intersection control evaluation included with the scope of work for this project. So that would have to be something that comes later. But just trying to get kind of a comprehensive kind of understanding of if there's a preferred approach to planning for an access either at the A location or the B location as we look to move this into a more formalized kind of planning effort. But there certainly will have to be a lot of additional analysis and review process with ODOT to verify, confirm those things in the future beyond the scope of this project. So I think, certainly getting any kind of initial feedback from ODOT on either of these locations would be helpful. And again, understanding that there's much more significant analysis and work to be done in the future on either location.
Thanks, Jeff.
Just follow up on the ODOT rail rep. We do have a different rep now. I think because it's a different rep, they might not have gotten that panelist invite, so I'm hoping they can join us. But I think, yeah, haven't seen them yet.
Okay, they're not in the waiting room yet. Okay. We have some information certainly on the process for adding rail crossings or closing one and opening another through our work in Sherwood, and that's certainly a starting point for us. So we can come back with ODOT rail rep and do a follow up. I think while we're still here, it's wonderful to have Alexis and Amy here, and I'm going to sort of switch gears here to the Highway 43 Culvert Project. And what is helpful for us, Alexis and Amy, at this point in the process is I think getting confirmation on where that project is, and then given that the city of Lake Oswego, so this is for the broader group, the city of Lake Oswego will be taking over the wastewater treatment plant. Today, that's an effort that's combined with the Portland BES, Bureau of Environmental Services, and Lake Oswego. And the new plant will be built. Stefan Brodus is here. He's the project manager for that. It'll be relocated where you see that asterisk. And Lake Oswego will then take management of that facility. Some of the waste still comes from Multnomah County and Portland into this facility, so there'll be some partnership still with BES in Portland, but from the wastewater treatment and potentially a watershed perspective, this may put Lake Oswego in a position where previously the Portland's Bureau of Environmental Services was sitting in relationship to improving fish passage along Tryon Creek. And so I think part of what we might need some help with, Alexis and Amy, is sort of your thoughts on how we transition leadership from the city of Lake Oswego to step into that role with the Highway 43 Fish Culvert Project, and so I'll sort of stop there and maybe have Alexis and Amy kind of weigh in on their thoughts.
Yeah. Alexis, do you want me to kind of field that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
So just a very little bit of history on the project. For the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, the City of Portland and the Army Corps of Engineers had a partnership to replace the culvert, which is undersized and blocks fish passage from the Willamette River up into the upper reaches of Tryon Creek with a much larger culvert. And we've gone through feasibility and many other federal processes. And we got to a point where the Army Corps did their due diligence and they did their costing out processes. And what they discovered was that their estimate of their preferred alternative was really high. It was, and the estimated cost was much higher than what their maximum allowable by Congress. In order to move forward with the Army Corps, we would have had to go back to Congress and have that allowable increased by quite a lot. And right now, just where things are in Congress, that wouldn't really have worked out. So, and with the things that Jason was just describing with the changes related to the treatment plant, there wasn't a strong connection between the project and the city of Portland. So the city of Portland is no longer the lead on the culvert replacement project. So given that and the cost, the project really is at a standstill. Now, that doesn't mean that the project is completely dead. So this project is one of 5 under WRDA, Water Resources Development Act. And WRDA itself is still alive. And if we can find another non-federal sponsor who can take over the project can continue. So it doesn't have to be the city of Portland, it can be another local non-federal sponsor. So the city of Lake Oswego, ODOT, our potential, Paul, I'm seeing you smile. Those are potential non-federal sponsors of the project. And frankly, just given the location of the project, the ownership of the Highway 43, those are 2 entities that make more sense than the city of Portland. Having said that, I'm happy to continue to support the project, but the city of Portland is not going to step back in and be the lead on the project. So I'm going to stop there because I know that Alexis has also been doing a lot of work. Alexis and the Watershed Council have been doing a lot of work to try to move the project forward.
Just a really quick question though, Amy. So I know obviously the city of Portland had more of an interest in this area when it had a role in the WWTP down there. Was that the primary sort of connection to the culvert project? Was that sort of the nexus, or was there another kind of reason that the city of Portland was taking this on at that time?
Say that again, to the connection to the what?
To the culvert project. So I know that there was obviously a wastewater treatment plant, there's the city of Portland has an interest in their, has that interest currently, and that will be likely, going away with the new wastewater treatment configuration. But was that sort of nexus in the interest in the culvert, just the proximity, or what was the city of Portland's real interest in the culvert project that has changed with the wastewater treatment changes?
So it's really not related to the treatment plant. It's really about the watershed and restoring fish. So the watershed itself is what 3/4 of it or half of it are within the city of Portland. Okay. There's the Boone's Ferry culvert was replaced with a bridge that's within the city of Portland, and that was done for fish passage as well. Way back in, I think, 2000, the Portland City Council adopted an ordinance that said we will restore fish no matter what it takes. And so we've been pursuing that goal ever since. So this really was a fish recovery project for us. Also, I will say right now, we own from the culvert, that part of the creek, from the culvert down to the Willamette River. We do have infrastructure under Highway 43. So there is a connection, but it it was not really the treatment plant.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was something that you had said at the beginning, just kind of, relate. Maybe it was more what Jason was saying, maybe that I was processing, but
Yeah.
I thought there was something involved with your relationship with the WWTP that had something to do with the culvert, and maybe the infrastructure pieces are related, but okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
It might be the infrastructure piece because the city of Portland, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong here, owns the elevated sewer line, which follows Tryon Creek and passes underneath the impoundment and then reaches the plant.
And we will continue to own that infrastructure, but the property is going to change hands and it's going to change over to Lake Oswego.
Great, thank you. Alexis, do you wanna step in?
Yeah, I don't know that Amy left anything out in her response. But I think the one thing that sort of comes to mind, just to paint with a really, really broad brush and to oversimplify this entire like geographic area and the project itself, the railway trestle that's in place right now, it constrains each side of the creek in terms of what type of fish passage improvement could be implemented. So if the railroad trestle were to be replaced with a larger span, that would, Amy, again, please feel free to use more accurate language than I hear, but my understanding is that could really dramatically affect the costs of the project. So that would be there's one of the engineers that worked on the project sort of said that replacing the railroad would unlock everything else with the project. So
yeah, having the Army Corps of Engineers as a partner definitely drives you to one set of solutions, and it precludes you from doing a bridge. And a bridge is potentially less costly than doing a culvert. We don't really know because we really didn't look at that option. But if ODOT was a partner.
I mean,
and one thing also with the non-federal sponsor, like that partner role that the city of Portland held, as we're looking, as Amy is elegantly, and I am also elegantly naming other agencies, there doesn't need, I believe again, I believe that there doesn't need to only be one non-federal sponsor, that this is something that could be shared. So it wouldn't be that entire burden being passed directly from the city of Portland onto any other entity that were to step in.
I think there's one formal non-federal sponsor, and then others but there can be a lot of people sharing in the non-federal sponsor cost. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification.
So this is the WRDA grant. I don't know if it's technically a grant, but whatever the project, I guess, that's been identified for funding under WRDA is, that would still be a culvert project, right? That would still be tied to the Army Corps of Engineers. Is that correct?
It would be.
Okay.
I will say that the Army Corps' response or their solution is what they called a culvert with a lid, which sounds a lot like a bridge. But we don't use that word.
Interesting. And there would still be that need for additional congressional funding authorization.
Yes. Yes, and it's significant.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And that's why the U.S. Army Corps, and Paul, I do see your hand here. I want to turn it over to you. That's why the U.S. Army Corps have been brought in as a key partner, is because they bring roughly 2/3 of the funding.
Yeah.
Question for Alexis. These sort of non-federal entities, are there other groups that were involved in the Culvert project? And I think in particular, I'm curious about the Grand Ronde Tribe because I know that they're active in Tryon Creek Park itself and some of the facilities there. But were they a part of the Highway 43 discussion? I know Oregon City is doing some work and Grand Ron is taking some leadership roles there around the Willamette, the Willamette River over in Oregon City. But I was curious if the Grand Ron were a part of this culvert project.
That's a great question. And my understanding is they haven't really been super involved in the past. Yeah. And the relationships within the park are great in our interpersonal and our connections that I can follow up on absolutely. But I don't know that it's the tribes haven't been partnered with in terms of like government to government relations.
Okay.
They haven't. I will say that we found lamprey, eel in the lower part of the creek. So I think that the tribes would be very interested in the project.
Yeah, yes, that's a thank you, Amy. That's certainly in Tryon Creek providing really healthy cutthroat trout habitat and potential spawning habitat for salmon is it's remarkable, and it's something that is exciting to people and is valuable. So it's a easy table to bring people to in terms of the value of this project occurring. Like how we get there. That's
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that we really are hoping to pick up the ball and run with. So thank you. Sorry, Paul, if we haven't called on you yet. You've raised your hand for a while here.
Oh, it's fine. I was just mostly going to affirm what Amy's saying. We had a conversation, email exchange, I think last year about this project where you shared the same information about the estimate, and I think that it's her decision or determination not to move forward. And so it obviously connects with ODOT because the culvert goes under the OR-43, our facility. But I think that was the extent of it. But I can tell you, based on our budgetary constraints, that the culvert program does not have additional funds at this point. So, and I just reached out to them recently to ask about a different project and was reminded of that fact. So, just for
Thanks,
information.
Paul.
Sure.
What about culverts with lids?
No money, no matter what the project is.
Not even then.
Your pockets are empty.
Thanks, Paul.
There are some federal agencies that have pretty high ceilings in terms of grant awards that we were looking at. We know it would be really not feasible for any local agency to bring even that third of the share of the total cost of the project within their own budgets. Amy was doing a lot of grant writing.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you sharing all that with us. We're a little, we're getting new information, but we've had some conversations with you previously, so thanks for sharing that again with us and with the rest of the group as well. We really appreciate it and moving this forward. It's very helpful.
Anytime.
Yeah. Alexis, if you could, if there are contacts with Grand Ron, you could share with us, that would be great because we would like to reach out.
And it looks like we just got our new rep for ODOT Rail in the meeting. I'm so sorry that there was a difficulty there. Prescott, I apologize for the difficulty, but thank you for joining us.
There's Prescott. Hello. I'm Jason. I'm going to hop in here, Prescott. You're looking at a map here, and
actually, I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not. Okay, I stopped sharing. Well,
Hello, I finally got here.
I struggled myself, so you're not the only one.
That's something we'll have to note for the future is that these aren't easy meeting invites to just forward on, that we're going to have to make sure to add folks to the actual sort of group of folks that get the Zoom invites directly, just because this is a panelist Zoom meeting. So apologies, we will accommodate that and adjust for the future, but it's caused some difficulties today.
So Prescott, I'm going to try to get you up to speed here. I'm not sure how much you even know about the project area, but this is the town of Lake Oswego. The Willamette River is here on the right. the downtown core, A and B Avenue. These represent kind of the commercial core of downtown. And obviously in the last 15, 20 years, there's been a lot of redevelopment in this location. And there's a future anchor project adding more mixed use development at this other location. And our project area is generally focused around these color blobs that you see here. We have an existing wastewater treatment plant that is currently in this location, and it's being redesigned and rebuilt, and it's going to move over to the left here a little bit where you see this asterisk, and that's going to then where you see this orange redevelopment core area really potentially open up this land area for redevelopment. And the city is creating a framework plan for this entire district called the Foothills, with primarily redevelopment happening in the orange area, but also some enhancements to Foothills Park, which is a strong amenity in the district. And that's what you see here along blue. And that's going to include trail connections and along the frontage of this district and potentially crossing Tryon Creek, which is in this area here. And let me get that highlighted. So Tryon Creek is moving through the project area like this, and that's another amenity. The park will eventually have a trail bridge that expands over. The city of Lake Oswego owns some open space here, as well as a park location here, where you see that dock. And so we're looking primarily in the district, but also some key connections in and out that extend to the riverfront open space and trail network. One of our key dilemmas for redevelopment of the district is currently there's only a single access into the district today, and that occurs at State Street at this location to the south, and it works its way along a roadway here, basically around the district, sort of like this. And so we're looking at a northerly access to tap into the redevelopment area. And we're looking at a couple of locations along Highway 43, which is here. And of course, there's also a rail line that extends along the Highway 43 corridor, and that traverses one side of the district, as you see here. And it continues, and then it crosses Highway 43, and it works its way to the west. I believe that line goes all the way out to Sherwood and beyond. Currently, there is an at-grade crossing of Highway 43 in this location, and that serves a public storage unit. So that's a private storage company. And in a previous plan in 2012 that the city did for this district, this B was going to be kind of the primary access into the district. As a part of our update to this plan, and the reason for the update largely is that this wastewater treatment plant is being moved to a new location, which is opening up redevelopment area, which sort of changes the metrics of the original 2012 plan. And so part of our effort is then looking at what the potential is, given that that new land area will be available for redevelopment. But coming back to the access question, while B was identified as kind of the preferred access in 2012, we're now also exploring the connection at Terwilliger Boulevard, which today is a three-legged intersection. So it's Highway 43 moving through, and Terwilliger sort of tees into that. So there's no rail crossing today, but there is. And so we would be introducing that if this connection were to occur at A. And part of the having ODOT rail here is to understand sort of what we need to anticipate in terms of adding an additional rail crossing in this location. And we certainly know we have other issues in terms of the design of the intersection. So that's kind of a cost consideration. But I think specifically to ODOT rail, understanding what what path we need to proceed through from the rail perspective would be helpful for us and in understanding who we need to get involved in conversations as we move forward with
Jason,
planning.
I got a question.
Yep.
I think B going into that storage facility is a private crossing, so that would have to turn into a public crossing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I can. This is some initial design work about that location. To your point, yes, that so it's private, making that public.
Yeah, there
Is
are
a
a lot of
different process.
differences that would, I mean, that would be like, yeah, I mean, that site is obviously a private site currently right now as well. So the city would have to figure out a way to acquire at least some or all potentially of that site.
But Prescott, tell me a little bit more. There's a process, it sounds like what you're saying, going between a private driveway over a rail line and a public street over a rail line.
Right. Well, is that private property across the rail there?
It's private property on both sides of Highway 43 here.
Oh, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're going to invite public through there, it needs to be a public crossing. So you might have to change that into public right away. I don't know.
Oh, sure. I didn't know if there was a different formal process with the rail line if we go from a public crossing versus a private crossing. Yeah, the assumption is the city of Lake Oswego would create new right of way here. And so it doesn't mean that there wouldn't be private development, but the road itself would be publicly owned, just for clarification, and that would be tapped into Highway 43. And so we understand that that a signal would be a part of that work, that control of traffic as a result of train movement would also be a part of that work. So the engineering around being able to stop traffic flow through signal arms would be a part of the project as well.
Right.
But I didn't know if it takes a different process of.
Yeah, if you're inviting the public into a place, it needs to be a public crossing.
Okay. Is there a formal process of going from a private crossing to a public crossing? Meaning, is there something that permitting that goes through ODOT rail, or how does that?
No, you have to file an application to change it from private to public.
Okay, gotcha.
So it has to either be the road authority or the railroad. So it could either be Metro or it could be somebody that's city or whoever else is on there. So
got it. The other location is Area A, and I'll just stay on this map because it's got a little bit more clarity in terms of visually. And we're talking about a new connection at this location. So that would be option A is creating a new intersection here that would then feed into the redevelopment area. And so this would create a four-way intersection, signalized intersection, signalized today, but currently there's no traffic on the right side of the image here. So we're creating a new intersection. Certainly you can give me some additional guidance on when you're adding additional crossing, what's that process like? My understanding is that quite often rail is more open to a new crossing if another crossing is removed. And in this instance, possibly if this private development were to gain access to a new roadway, that we could close off that private crossing as they would have access to their facility from another road network, i.e. this new connection. But if you want to just give us some insight on the process of getting this new crossing.
Is that private property right there too across the tracks, or is that public?
City of Lake Oswego owns this land area
Well,
here.
and Metro.
And Metro.
Right. Yeah. So they would apply. They would send in an application. there would need to be a design. I don't know if you know Tom Weiser, but you need
Okay.
to design a crossing and everything there, and
Mhm.
then there'd need a civil design of the crossing and everything, and then they would file an application to us, and then I would write a crossing order for it. So
Okay. Got it. Well,
I
that
mean,
is
I know this
helpful.
obviously isn't like a pre-application, I guess, conference or anything like that, but is there anything we should know about that general process with the, just
yeah, I don't know if you know Weiser Engineering, Tom Weiser. He's excellent. He's excellent at designing crossings. It's Weiser Engineering.
Yeah, I think
okay.
Jeff here at Apex is currently working with Tom
Yeah,
at
we're
Oregon
working with
City.
Tom on a rail quiet zone in Oregon City, and I worked with him on another new crossing in Clatsop County. So familiar with Tom. I know he does a lot of rail in this area.
So it sounds like we can tap into Tom as well. Um, that's helpful, Prescott. Thank you. I think in terms of this discussion around the intersection, I feel yeah, I think we've gained as much insight as we can at the moment, which is helpful. Thank you. And I see Elizabeth has her hand raised, so let me take a break here. We're sort of open. I think we're at a point now where we can have some additional discussion, and so let me hand it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Jason. I had a question primarily, I guess, for Prescott, but others as well. So currently the rail line is being used by, I believe it's Portland Western, correct me if I'm wrong, for freight. And then in addition, it's used by the Willamette Shoreline Trolley. And how does the adding a new crossing affect the use? And what would the permitting process require to make sure that we're making the uses for the freight and passengers continue to be able to use that space?
Well, then we would have to hold a rail crossing diagnostic when you're getting ready to design it. Then we would have the railroad there, probably both entities. And then the rail crossing diagnostic determines what type of safety devices, whether it's going to be signalized or whether it's going to be passive or something to that effect. And so that all depends on what the diagnostic team determines. And so my guess is that when we get a little closer and narrowing on what's going to happen with the public storage facility, whether that's going to be closed or whether we're going to open a brand new one intersection up there at point A, then we would bring together both the city, all the entities that are road authorities, the railroad, and ODOT together, and we hold a diagnostic to discuss what safety devices and the design. And that's where, if I hired Tom Weiser, that he would be there, and we would discuss what safety devices and the design, and then he would, or whoever consultant would design the civil design of the crossing or whatever that may be. That makes sense?
Yeah, I guess I was just wanting to make sure that we're thinking about continued use for the railroads and for the trolley.
Yeah, I think I think it would be helpful to understand, I guess, the specific needs that you have as the WSL trolley. I think I understand that the line has had to shut down for repairs and things like that in the future. So I'm assuming that there would have to be some shutting down of the rail line for construction at some point. But otherwise, our intent would be to maintain, that rail line in the right of way as full as possible. So I'm not sure that I can talk about the specific of the construction schedule or anything like that at this point. Like we're really far down the road from that. But I think our ultimate goal would be to um, not kind of interrupt whatever arrangements are in place and to work around whatever sort of parameters we'd have to work around to make that happen. But I don't really know how, difficult that would be, I guess, considering, the situation. So I think, obviously we have to know what we're even talking about constructing before we know what that conversation is really. But I know that there are some limitations on sort of like how long the right of way can go without having any active use on it. And I know there's also a history of it going for quite some time without any active use as well. So yeah, it would just be interesting or it'd be better for us to understand those parameters.
I see Alex has his hand up. Alex, you want to comment?
I had a question. So just, TriMet's interest in this is preserving the possibility of passenger service to Lake Oswego on that right of way that the shoreline trolley uses. So I'm curious to know if I believe these are all at-grade crossings. Is that my understanding? And I just wanted to know if there are different design standards for crossings with freight versus crossings for passenger rail.
Is that for
No.
Prescott initially? Yeah, go ahead.
No, not really. It would just need to be designed by Tom Weiser or whoever. There would probably need to be a pedestrian part of the crossing and that kind of thing. So it all depends on whether it has to be signalized. So that's why we would hold a diagnostic, and that can happen anytime. So I don't know how far out that is. I know Eric, you were talking about that, but when it gets to the point where you've really determined, are we going to have two crossings? Are we going to have one crossing? If it's going to be we could make that a nice crossing with pedestrian pathway across, and, that kind of thing. So that's why you hold the diagnostic when it really gets down to the point, kind of what the plan is. Then we hold the diagnostic. Okay, this is what we're going to have to do, whether it's going to be signalized or passive, and what it's going to look like.
Thank you.
Yeah,
go
you
ahead.
can probably tell by the level of detail that we're at this point. This is a very high level discussion right now. We're just kind of trying to get the right folks in the room and just kind of lay out all the different challenges that we have here. So, I think it's difficult to know even what we're designing. Are we designing a culvert? Are we designing a bridge? Are we designing just are we just thinking about somehow leveling out that grade at the intersection? What are we designing exactly? So yeah, I think, it would be most helpful to kind of think about what the limitations are, I guess, if we can. I think in order to maintain, it sounds like there's some flexibility potentially on the design of the rail crossing, but obviously there are a lot of standards we will have to meet. So I'm sure that the devil is more than in the details there. But in terms of the various jurisdictions that are at this conversation, if there are any things that are just like big no-nos, this is crossing a line and this is going to put something into jeopardy, that's really important for us to know. And so,
okay, one thing is, I don't know, is it fairly a steep gradient on either side? Because generally there needs to be only a drop of 3 inches and 30 feet from the edge from the nearest rail out to 30 feet. There should only be a 3 inch drop. So if it's a super steep or something like that, we'd have to make a design exception or something to that effect.
Yeah, thanks for noting that. Our engineering team at Apex has definitely been looking at that, and our rail standards are part of what we're reviewing as we're looking at alignments or making connections. I appreciate you making note of that. And I think for Elizabeth as well and TriMet, this project is wholly intending to keep that rail access fully intact for long-term passenger rail or other. There's no intent at all for this project to impede that connection. Certainly the streetcar would have added some value connecting Lake Oswego to Portland at that scale. And I think other scales are just as important as well, as is freight moving through the area. So we're not looking to change or impact that. We're really focused on, this is fairly significant redevelopment opportunity in the downtown. The city is establishing an urban renewal district. One that they've had in place for quite some time will be sunsetting soon. So they're looking to develop that potential to invest in infrastructure. There already is significant investment for the city of Lake Oswego in this wastewater treatment plant facility. And so, this site and property becomes important partially due to that initial investment and then what it's going to open up in terms of potential redevelopment and expanding the tax base and the services that the city of Lake Oswego can provide. Foothills Park is a huge public amenity for the people of Lake Oswego, and access to that facility is also important. So as much as we're talking about future economic development, this is also about quality of life and maintaining essential infrastructure that's important to the citizens of Lake Oswego today. And so really our desire to look at Terwilliger, even if it's a longer process in terms of that connection, understanding that the potential benefit it can have to Highway 43 operations, also linking directly to advancement of improved fish passage is also important as a part of this project. So we're not just worried about transportation. Tryon Creek is a huge amenity, again, that serves the district, the nature park. Up on one side of the roadway is important, but there's even some discussion of how do we continue that learning and education aspect that's tied to Tryon Creek, as well as the cultural impact it has on the Grand Ronde tribe, and extending that down into the district is another opportunity that we're trying to explore. So this is helpful. We're looking for partners. We're trying to make folks aware that there's sort of shifting in leadership roles here as the Bureau of Environmental Services moves away from this facility and Lake Oswego steps in. And so you all are sort of our points of contact for re-engaging a process that now isn't fully integrated and engaged. So this is really, it's been eye-opening for us. It's giving us some opportunities to explore this further. We know on the city side, building leadership around how do you bridge the fish passage project is something that we can explore as well, like who is a point of contact from the city of Lake Oswego and how might they get engaged. And the more we have these conversations, that allows us to sort of identify what those paths are. And thank you for, we're not coming with a lot of detail. And so a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, I know can be a little bit annoying for folks who you guys know the details and are expecting to weigh in at those points in time. But it has been really helpful for us to give us this high level perspective and at least get you all aware of kind of the direction we're trying to move in terms of bringing multiple partners together in this project for, a variety of different things that are supporting the district, whether it's Tryon Creek or whether it's transportation and access. We do know for the successful redevelopment of this project, having that additional access point is absolutely critical. Otherwise, we're looking at a much lower development potential with one entry in and out, basically a dead end district. And so, weaving through understanding what the potential is for getting that northern access is important. Even though it may take time for that to happen, we can still phase in development and move toward a future district that is fully accessible from the north and the south. So just want to thank everyone for that. And if there's any additional comments or questions, I know Elizabeth and Alex, you guys had some things that you wanted to discuss, and there's a little bit of time here if you want me to open up that door for you all, or we can follow up with you after this call. I'll leave that out in the air, and then I think we're pretty close to wrapping up if there's not additional comments.
Hey, want to throw out
Kenny.
there. Oh, go ahead, Kenny.
No, go ahead, Scott.
I know we've got a representative of fire. I'm just curious if there's any thoughts to offer there and what we've been discussing.
Matt, I'm not sure
Yeah,
if he's
I'm here. I mean, I guess I don't understand what what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, just as we're talking about today having one access and
Mhm.
we're trying to figure out where we might have a secondary access. if the development of the district was limited to one access. I'm just curious if you have any initial gut reactions to redevelopment down in that area. Like from your perspective, is it maxed out today with the number of housing units and things like that come off of Foothills, or is there still some room there if it remains a one access only situation?
So on the fire side, there isn't a limit. What it gets into is it would limit the height allowance for a certain structure. So you wouldn't be able to get structures that would require aerial apparatus access without two. And then any new residential type structures down there would be required to have fire sprinkler systems in them, regardless of size or anything. So if you tried to do single family or, a threeplex or something that didn't necessarily require it, that would trigger fire sprinklers, and then it would limit you to the heights.
Gotcha. And the height limitation, is that the 70 feet?
No,
for
no,
aerial?
no, that would be 36, I believe, is still what's adopted in the new code.
Okay.
Or 30 feet to the eaves, the lowest point.
Good to know. And that's from the ground plane.
That's from the
access
fire
point.
department access point. Yeah. So
Right.
if you had, 2 stories on a lower face, but didn't have aerial apparatus access to that side, then it would be the uphill side. So it would be taller.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's helpful.
Mhm.
Back to you, Kenny, I think.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to kind of second what Paul said in terms of not being a traffic expert, but I did, do a touch point with Tech Center, which is our traffic and roadway for Region 1. So just kind of general, trying to keep it general because, of course, they want to see more detail. And as a planner, you have to, you're like, yeah, me too, but, it's hard. So I didn't feel like there was any favoritism shown towards one versus the other. They did mention that it would, for the public storage driveway, which I'm going to call the B, option B, it would be better to align with D Avenue as opposed to being kind of an offset T. The conversation about access from the west is good, and you kind of flag that in terms of right in, right out off of D, and maybe other access concerns to help with option B. For option A, yeah, I think just like it's possible they've seen similar projects. It's going to be expensive, obviously. A new right of access takes time and money, but is doable, and they were just flagging the rail stuff more than anything, I think. So I'm glad that Prescott was here to weigh in on that. Jeff, go ahead.
Just related to B, one of the main reasons why that driveway exists is because that's where the highway and the railroad are at the same grade. And so we would need to place the access exactly where it is, where that driveway is located, without adjusting the grade of the highway or the railroad, because they're so close together. We would have to develop that access where the grade of the highway and the railroad are at the same location or at the same elevation. So doing an access in that vicinity that lines up with D or E isn't really an option, because at that point, at those locations, the railroad's at a different grade in the highway.
Okay. Yeah. And that
you can
might
see
sound
sort of the shadow lines here. This is where we're getting transition.
Yeah, I mean, by D, the highway is pretty high up relative to the railroad. It's a pretty steep grade going down the highway where that driveway occurs. So I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a design challenge. Even at this location, obviously at Terwilliger, that's a significant project. But at this location, if we were to go this route, we would need to keep that new access kind of where the existing driveway is located.
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've looked at it more than the folks I was talking to. So that's good feedback, though. So thanks.
I mean, I do see the benefit of having a line with D Avenue, of course, but
Yeah.
I think that in part the benefit of this option is that we don't have to build like bridges and things like that for it to come to fruition. So, yeah, that is part of the appeal, I think, as well.
One thing I'm not certain about here is who the underlying ownership of that rail line is. Is that if that's Union Pacific right away, then we've got major issues to deal with. I'll have to look into that. So
I
I'll
think
check
it
into
is.
that. You think it
I think
is?
it's Union Pacific that PW&R operates the freight on it.
That's my
Yeah.
understanding in Sherwood, and it's the same line. So,
And then, of course,
Yeah.
there's a
Well, if it's
complicated
Union,
IGA on top of that. And,
yeah, if it's Union Pacific, we're going to have some major issues because they're a pain in the rear to work with. But I'll have to look into the right of way. You're pretty sure, Elizabeth, that is Union
I
Pacific?
believe I've read that, but I would double check it just to be sure. Yeah. And then I'm not sure exactly what
Well,
our agreement is for
I
running
can look
that.
into it. I'll look into it to make sure. Hopefully it's not, but if it is, then that's a major
I think it is.
consideration.
I
It's
mean,
not
Scott,
yeah.
Amy Chomowitz, I think, had to hop off the meeting, but she should be able to confirm with you too. That sounds correct to me as well.
okay.
In looking at some of the crossing, like the Tryon Creek Cove crossing study that Metro did, it was identified as being a major constraint, the fact that it was UPRR. So. But yeah, confirmation would be good, but that is what I read as well.
I'm going to bring up one more comment, and this is directed to Matthew with fire and some of the rationale for a Terwilliger road segment is that could potentially improve access to the Stamford residents and access to that portion of the city that's fairly convoluted with a kind of circuitous road and then going underneath the trestle and then back into the street. It sort of does something like this and works its way down. And the idea that an improved Terwilliger intersection may add a leg off of that new intersection to then connect into the neighborhood and improve at least that point of access in and out. It's not a huge population of people here, but I just wanted to curious about at least fire today, what procedures you guys have to go through in the current process of going under the trestle and all that, and is that an issue, or I mean, you obviously have a workaround for that, but I just wanted to flag that. Just curious your thoughts on serving this limited area.
Yeah, it is accessible to us. It's not ideal, but it's what we go through and call existing non-conforming. There's no plans to change it. There's no requirement for them to do anything on it. But yeah, it is a challenging access point, and those just happen to exist in some locations.
I cannot believe you can get an apparatus under there. That's wild.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, it's just I think a lot of us went on the tour, I guess, of the project area, and we went over to this part of the neighborhood, I guess, and it is a huge hazard really to even try to turn. It's like a hairpin turn to even get on Stamford, and then you go really deep down and then go under this really historic rail bridge, sort of trestle situation, and it's really makes it difficult to access that area. And the more we talk with neighbors over there, the more we understand that that's kind of how they like it. But it's of course a very unique circumstance over there, and there's a lot of issues that we don't really hear a lot about in Lake Oswego in terms of like sort of drug usage and sort of homelessness and things like that we hear about, but they're like, don't change anything. We don't want that to go. We're like, we don't want you to come over here and mess with things because we think it'll be worse. So it's kind of an interesting little hamlet over there. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get more into the the concerns from that particular grouping of homes. But there's only like 8 homes over there, and I think only one of them is actually a city property. They're all unincorporated Clackamas County for the most part.
Well,
But yeah, there is that sort of interesting city park also that's kind of just intermixed amongst those properties, and it's an interesting relationship because when you go onto that dock, you can really see everybody's backyard, and you can see why they might have some concerns about privacy.
So no plans for a fire water taxi, will you be putting out fires from the Willamette? Oh,
Not without a really concentrated campaign to get those folks on board, I guess. It's gonna take some work.
it'd be fun to watch. Well, I want to thank everyone again for your time today. It's really been helpful for us. We're moving into looking at these 2 locations and understanding the geometrics a little bit better, establishing a road network into that redevelopment area that you saw on the plan. So that's kind of where we are in the next phase. That'll help us to understand sort of what the capacity might be for development with either one of those future connections, either at Terwilliger or at the public storage yard. And I think that'll give us an opportunity to come back with potentially some more specifics that certainly I think would be valuable for ODOT transportation. And I think Prescott just getting some confirmation on Union Pacific would be helpful, and probably no major thing for you to weigh in on the interim, but wanted to appreciate your all's time today, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone, and we'll probably be picking up the pace of these meetings here in the near future. So be on the lookout for that as well. So thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Nice to meet
Sounds
everybody.
good.
Me too.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Hey, Elizabeth, did you want to stay on and have a chat with us?
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that.
And Alex, yeah.
That'd be great.